I'm so excited to share with you that this podcast is sponsored by The Real, the best place to shop authenticated luxury bags, clothing, watches, and so much more. I love scouring The Real for new pieces. There are 10,000 new items every day, and they do their daily drops at 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can shop and sell at The Real, which is great because you can use those earnings to buy something special. I just bought a gold Fendi bracelet, a hinge bracelet. I can't wait to wear it. The Real is attainable luxury that upgrades your personal style. With up to 90% off retail, you can finally have the pieces that you've been dreaming of from brands like Gucci, Fendi, and Prada. So The Real is the world's largest and most trusted resource for authenticated luxury resale. With thousands of new arrivals daily, no one does resale like The Real. And now you can get $25 off your first purchase when you go to therealreal.com/Kate Casey. That's therealreal.com/Kate Casey to get your $25 off. Start shopping at therealreal.com/Kate Casey. Looking for a new beautiful, durable, and sustainably made rug at an accessible price? You've got to check out Revival Rugs. I just swapped out my son's rug. I got an 8x10 in sweatshirt. It is so soft on your feet. And if you're a parent like me, you're going to want to check out their popular line of washable rugs because they have the same high quality look and feel as a traditional rug. If your kids or your pets get your rug dirty, you can just pop it in the washing machine and it comes out fresh and clean. And I love that. Plus, they're a sustainable company. They use eco-friendly materials, including wool, cotton, recycled denim, and recycled polyester. It's a brand you can feel good about, and they've got affordable prices so your wallet can feel good too. Visit revivalrugs.com/realitylife and use the code KateCasey20 for 20% off your first order. That's revivalrugs.com/realitylife, code KateCasey20. One more time, revivalrugs.com/realitylife with code KateCasey20 to save 20% off your order.
The amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. I hope that you're having a great week, and I hope that you listened to yesterday's episode with my friend Patrick Hickey, an absolute must listen to, especially if you watch Bravo shows. Now, I have to tell you, if you go to the What to Watch list at katecasey.substack.com, you're going to see a little blurb about a documentary this week. I really think you're going to like it. It is called The Carters, Hurts to Love You on Paramount+. This is a documentary that takes a deeply personal look at the soaring success and heartbreaking struggles of a family propelled into the spotlight by the meteoric rise of the musical careers of two of the brothers, Nick Carter from Backstreet Boys and the late pop sensation Aaron Carter. That airs April 15th, an absolute one to watch. Also, if you go to katecasey.substack.com, you can click on the tab with my Reality Life with Kate Casey book club selections. I know that a lot of you are going on vacations this week for spring break and for the Easter holiday. If you want something to read on the plane or at the beach or at the resort, you can find fantastic books. For example, one of my favorite books from that list is Jackie, Public Private Secret. It is about Jackie Kennedy Onassis, and the author is J. Randy Taraborelli. Most of those books that are listed there are accompanied by an interview that I've done with the author. And in particular for that book, it's actually a two-parter. So you can read the book and then enjoy, when you go on a walk or whatever it may be, the interview with the author. So go to katecasey.substack.com to read all of the book club selections, and then also to read this week's What to Watch list. So I've been telling you that I'm part of an episode of this series on investigation and discovery called Hollywood Demons. And what it does, it tells an inside look at the pitfalls sometimes of fame. So over the course of 6 episodes each Monday night, and this week's episode is about the Real Housewives. The Real Housewives began as a dazzling display of wealth and luxury, but over the past 2 decades, tragedy and criminal activity have shaken their glamorous worlds. So in this episode, for the first time, a former colleague breaks down how one housewife built her multi-million-dollar empire on deception, and the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Taylor Armstrong, speaks out like never before, shedding new light on her husband's alleged abuse and the unsettling rumors that still surround his death. So if you go and watch that episode, I am featured in it. I was asked to do it last year in the summer, and I was happy to do so to provide some insight on the history of the series. I've been enamored by this series because, especially when these franchises began in the early aughts, most of the stories that were featured were not even looked upon by scripted TV or movies. Women over 30, forget it. Women over 30 married with kids, come on. And I have really enjoyed over time all of the women's personal stories. It's fascinating because they have complicated lives of their own. And then you take in the intersection of the friendships. It's endlessly fascinating. Why someone chooses to do a show is pretty unique. For some of them, I think it's represented financial freedom. Maybe they were in a marriage where they didn't feel like they had anything of their own. And now they've built substantial careers because of it. We've had a window into health scares. One housewife in particular in Miami, Gertie, is still battling or hopefully in recovery now of breast cancer. We've seen marriages crumble, children, parenting, the death of one child in particular from a drug overdose. So many fascinating stories over time, over several different cities, both international and domestic. So I was happy to provide some insight, and I think you're going to like this series because they go more in depth in a couple of the stories that we know all so well. So, for example, in the beginning of the episode, they talk about the story of Danielle Staub. Danielle Staub joined Real Housewives of New Jersey in the beginning of the series. And it was an interesting show from the beginning because, unlike the other shows, this one felt like it was more centered around a family. Obviously, the women in New Jersey are different than New York and Orange County. It definitely had its own unique feel. Well, Danielle seemed a little bit of an outsider. Number one, she wasn't married. She was a divorced mother of two and wasn't part of that core family. She was also fiery and flirty and unapologetically blunt. During the first season of the show, the cast met for a dinner at a restaurant. Now, when this happens, they've all been privately gossiping about Danielle and her life, in particular about a book, Charles Kipp's book, Cop Without a Badge. This book recounted events that surrounded Kevin Mayer, an undercover FBI informer whom Danielle had been married to in the late 80s. So Carlos King, then an associate producer on the show, who has discussed this very event on my podcast, said that he handed the book to Danielle underneath the table. She thrust it toward the other women. It was her way of getting in front of the story, calling them out for gossiping about her behind her back. Like, I know what you guys think. Why aren't you asking me what happened? Why are you relying on this book? Well, that sit down culminated with Teresa Giudice reaching her boiling point. She shoved her hands beneath the table and flipped it, screaming, "Prostitution whore," at her castmate. Now, later, Danielle would say having her daughter be present at that moment was humiliating and painful. Danielle departed the show after 2 seasons and then returned in a supporting capacity for seasons 8, 9, and 10. So what's crazy is that Danielle, who again was married to Kevin Mayer from 1988 to 1989, by the way, she was married to Thomas Staub from 1993 to 2007, where she had the 2 children, and then married to Marty Caffrey, and their wedding was shown on Real Housewives of New Jersey. Remember, Margaret was the bridesmaid. That marriage lasted 1 year. The ex-husband, Kevin, the man behind the iconic Cop Without a Badge book, we had no idea where this guy went, right? Well, he breaks the silence about their short marriage in this episode and provides more context on what was happening as it was discussed in the book. He says they met while she was still using her birth name, Beverly Ann Merrill. And it was alluded to in the show, so he discusses this more. So he says in 1985, he was a paid confidential informant for the FBI, DEA, Secret Service, U.S. Customs, and the NYPD. He worked for them for 5 years undercover. And he says one night he picked up John, who was a drug dealer at a club. And on the way to the hotel, he was introduced to Beverly Ann Merrill. And there was an immediate attraction. 2 days after they met, Danielle admitted to Kevin that she was out on bail after previously being arrested and facing prison time. Now, he claims that she was connected to a drug dealer who was involved in narcotics trafficking, pistol whipping an individual, and kidnapping. And he told her that he was an undercover confidential informant and that there were a lot of things that he could do for her. So in other words, great. Like, what can you do for me? He says, "This is the first time in 40 years that I've spoken about how I confided in her and how stupid I was." He said, "You know what the Colombians would do if they found out I was an informant." So Danielle Staub, he says, was arrested in 1986 in connection to a crime where an unnamed drug dealer allegedly kidnapped someone from Buffalo who wanted to get into the drug trade and stole $25,000 worth of cocaine, beat him, and held him hostage. In the episode, they say that authorities found 6 kilos of cocaine and about $16,000 in cash when Danielle Staub was arrested. She was initially charged with extortion, kidnapping, and drug possession. Now, she's denied any involvement in the kidnapping, but admitted to talking to the victim's father about his drug debt. He accused her of telling him lies about her past, Kevin does. He says, "She fooled me and I felt sorry for her." And he says that he helped her get 5 years probation and all charges except extortion from being dropped. He said, "I married her because I knew the parole guy would catch us and she would go to prison because I'm a convicted felon." Mayer didn't hear from her again until she joins the Real Housewives of New Jersey cast in 2009. And then, of course, her co-stars bring up the book, Cop Without a Badge, which aired out her controversial past. If you were to look at my tote bag, you would find my essentials: sunblock for my fair skin, about 14 lipsticks, hair elastics, my phone, and Liquid IV. My goal this year has been to keep up my hydration, and Liquid IV is a must-have hydration made easy, true to fruit flavors that keep you hydrated, and you can find all your favorite hydration multiplier flavors on their website, from lemon lime to pina colada, or you can choose from their line of sugar-free flavors like raspberry lemonade, white peach, and rainbow sherbet. 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, and they're always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. So you too can break the mold and own your own ritual. Just 1 stick and 16 ounce of water hydrates better than water alone. So ready up for a long day with extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code KateCasey at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with the code KateCasey at liquidiv.com. It's home project season, and Wayfair is the best kept secret for all things renovation. Whether you're making a little update like a new kitchen cabinet, hardware, or doing a full renovation, Wayfair has stylish and quality home improvement products for every budget. We live near the beach, so we love coastal decor. Our home is bright and white with blue and neutral tones. And we just recently changed the decor in some of the kids' rooms, and we just found great night tables for Sutton and Caroline's rooms. We loved all of the options available. The Wayfair website is so easy to use, and I could not believe the great prices. There's something for every style and every home, no matter your space or budget. Wayfair makes it easy to tackle your spring home goals with endless inspiration for every space and budget, whether you need a light refresh or an organizational overhaul. Free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff. They even help you set it up. Find all of your home improvement must-haves, from flooring to light fixtures to faucets to hardware, all in one convenient place. Shop the best selection of home improvement online. Get renovating with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Also included in this episode is an assistant U.S. attorney, Teresa Van Veet. She weighs in on Danielle's charges. She says Danielle was the least culpable of the group. After her arrest was brought up on the show, Kevin Mayer sued her for defamation of character, and they settled out of court in 2009. Danielle has written her own autobiography called The Naked Truth that was released in 2010, and she wrote that she was the victim of childhood assault and her arrest was a matter of wrong place, wrong time. So that is the story of Danielle Staub. Then they go into Teresa Giudice. Now, again, she was an original cast member on Real Housewives of New Jersey. We met her in 2009. And she came across as a sweet and devoted mother to the 4 daughters. And of course, there was the table flipping at the end of the season. Well, in one early scene of the show, Teresa and her castmate, Jacqueline Laurita, went furniture shopping for a new dream home. We see her on camera pick out over $100,000 in French Chateau-style furniture, and then appear to pay for it all in cash. Now, she now says that wasn't exactly how the shopping trip went down. She said that she and Jacqueline had about $500 in cash on them at the time, but the producers allegedly gave her a bunch of smaller bills to make it look like more. She said, it showed me how much my furniture was, like $140,000 or something. And then I'm giving out $100 bills. Then they showed the calculator and it looked like I had all of that money in cash on me. Now, if I would have had to walk around with 2 briefcases to have that much money. She said she thinks she actually paid for the furniture with a check, but that the footage of paying in cash is partly what instigated a federal investigation, and they took interest in her and her ex-husband, Joe Giudice, because of it. I think that's why the government came after us. Well, in the episode, they interviewed an IRS field operator who broke down the charges that she faced. Certainly having that scene play out on national television raised their antennas. On March 4th, 2014, Teresa and Joe Giudice entered guilty pleas to 41 counts of fraud following a deal struck with federal prosecutors. They were accused of engaging in bank, mail, wire, and bankruptcy fraud, which allegedly saw them net over $5 million over a 10-year period. Joe is additionally charged with failure to file a tax return. As part of his guilty plea, he admitted that during the tax years 2004 through 2008, he received income totaling nearly $1 million, but did not file tax returns for those years. On October 2nd, 2014, Teresa was sentenced to 15 months in federal prison. Joe was sentenced to 41 months, following by his potential deportation to Italy because he never obtained U.S. citizenship despite living in the country most of his life. They were allowed to serve time without it overlapping so one parent could be home with their daughters. He ultimately moved to Bahamas in 2020 and he works in the construction industry. Teresa came out of prison, wrote books, resumed filming of the show, and eventually remarried. Those stories about finances never seemed to go away. So that is the story of Teresa Giudice. Then they cover a bit of Erica Girardi, also known as Erica Jane, from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She joined the show in season 6 in 2015. Erica at the time was famously married to Tom Girardi, who ran the Los Angeles law firm Girardi Keese for 55 years. He was known for taking on David versus Goliath cases, suing large corporations, including Pacific Gas and Electric, Lockheed Martin, and Boeing, among others, and extracting huge settlements for his clients. On the show, you get a window into them taking private jets, showing off their multi-million-dollar mansion in Pasadena, California. And of course, Erica would always be wearing expensive jewelry and luxury clothing, and she admitted to a $40,000 a month glam budget. According to Erica, their riches were the result of decades of hard work. Notably, when they married in 2000, Erica was 28 years old and Tom was 60, so you can already imagine the power dynamics. Everyone thought I was marrying him to have a baby and lock down the money, as ugly as that sounds, Erica told People of their age difference. But she says their love was genuine. It really was two people coming together who really enjoyed each other's company. But on camera, their relationship clearly had a power imbalance, and he was even dismissive of her in front of castmates in the rare occasion he would film with her. It was enough for us all to notice. Erica filed for divorce from Tom in November of 2020. Shortly thereafter, in December of 2020, so a month later, a federal judge in Chicago froze Girardi's assets, ruling that he had misappropriated at least $2 million in client funds that were due to the families of those killed in the Boeing 737 MAX Lion Air Flight 610 crash in Indonesia. His firm, Girardi Keese, filed for bankruptcy in 2021. Tom Girardi was found guilty of diverting funds from his law firm to pay for personal expenses, including private jet travel, jewelry, and luxury items. He was disbarred in 2022. Edelson PC, run by Jay Edelson, he's been a guest on my show many times, a law firm representing victims in plane crash cases, sued Erica in a $50 million racketeering lawsuit alleging she profited from Girardi's embezzlement. Erica faced lawsuits seeking to recover assets required with funds misappropriated by Girardi, including the famous $750,000 earrings. In March of 2021, he was diagnosed with dementia and late-onset Alzheimer's disease and was later moved into an assisted living home and has been residing in a memory care facility since October of 2022 due to declining cognitive functions. She said in December of last year that she's not completely out of the woods. I'm still being sued in a lot of places, but those things will resolve. It is what it is. I just try to maintain the healthiest attitude possible going forward. Then you have Jen Shaw, an original member of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, mother of 2 boys, husband a football coach. She had an over-the-top personality who came prepared with her own television catchphrases. She was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison for her role in a telemarketing fraud scheme. The scheme, which targeted elderly and vulnerable people, promised them financial security by investing in fake business opportunities. She pled guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud in July of 2022 after initially maintaining her innocence. Along with co-conspirator Stuart Smith, she ran a telemarketing fraud scheme from at least 2012 until March of 2021, according to the Department of Justice. And the scheme, as mentioned, involves selling business services to victims, falsely promising to make them money online. She was a key leader in the scheme, facilitating the sale of leads, which were contact information for potential victims, to sales floors involved in the fraud, and eventually owned and operated one of those floors. Her arrest and the subsequent legal proceedings were featured on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And then lastly, Taylor Armstrong, an original cast member on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She says her earliest childhood memory is surrounded by trauma because I had domestic violence in my house as a child from a very young age. Because of her past, she changed her birth name of Shayna Hughes to Sheena Taylor as a reference to her stepfather. She then moved Taylor forward and added Ford as her last name, which took inspiration from her favorite designer, Tom Ford. She moved to Beverly Hills, California after starting her own e-commerce business. And in the series, she explains her name change was due to the childhood trauma, trying to escape her past, which makes a lot more sense now, looking back in retrospect. She met her future husband, venture capitalist Russell Armstrong, at a local restaurant in Beverly Hills while waiting to be seated. They married less than a year later, and she gave birth to their daughter. When the show began in 2010, she was plagued by rumors of financial issues and domestic violence. In a heated exchange that appeared on the show, Camille Grammer, a castmate, says to her, "We have all protected you, what you have told us about your marriage, because we don't say he hit you, because we don't say that he broke your jaw or that he beat you up. We don't say that, but now we've said it."
With the Spark Cash Plus card from Capital One, you earn unlimited 2% cash back on every purchase. And you get big purchasing power, so your business can spend more and earn more. Stephen, Brandon, and Bruno, the business owners of SandCloud, reinvested their 2% cash back to help build their retail presence. Now that's serious business. What could the Spark Cash Plus card from Capital One do for your business? Capital One. What's in your wallet? Find out more at CapitalOne.com/SparkCashPlus. Terms apply.
At 24, I lost my narrative, or rather it was stolen from me. And the Monica Lewinsky that my friends and family knew was usurped by false narratives, callous jokes, and politics. I would define reclaiming as to take back what was yours. Something you possess is lost or stolen, and ultimately you triumph in finding it again. So I think listeners can expect me to be chatting with folks, both recognizable and unrecognizable names, about the way that people have navigated roads to triumph. My hope is that people will finish an episode of Reclaiming and feel like they filled their tank up. They connected with the people that I'm talking to and leave with maybe some nuggets that help them feel a little more hopeful. Follow Reclaiming with Monica Lewinsky on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Reclaiming early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
In this series episode, Taylor reveals more of what was happening in her marriage. She recalled one incident when Russell pushed her into a swimming pool at a friend's house and held her under the water. Russell, he left, and this couple, they were very close to me and were very aware of what was going on. The man said, "We'll help you get out of this because this is not okay and we're really worried for you." Well, Russell was hiding around the side of the house and heard everything. He came flying into the backyard. He threw her into the pool, grabbed the man, knocked all of his teeth out, and he jumped in the pool and was trying to hold her under the water. She said at the time, "I thought he was going to drown me." So once, she says, Russell's sons from his previous relationship were visiting and she made them pizza. He came into the house, grabbed her by the throat, and put her against the wall. He said, "If you ever serve my kids a pizza without a vegetable again, I'll kill you." In another disturbing revelation, She said that she found recording devices throughout their home, leading her to believe she had no private moments in the marriage. Ultimately, it took a fractured orbital floor, a break in the bone that supports the eyeball in 2011 for her to realize she needed to get out. She recalled celebrating her 40th birthday at the Four Seasons Hotel, where Russell gifted her with 8 pairs of her favorite shoes and a really long card, and it was all about how he knew he hadn't been a good husband and that things were going to change. Taylor had recently been to Las Vegas with Lisa Vanderpump for Lisa's daughter's bachelorette party, a party that was filmed for Bravo. And as she laid in bed with her husband after her own birthday party, she recounted, he said something to the effect of, "I know you slept with the Chippendales when you were in Vegas." And he continued to push and would not let up. He raised her up, leaned her over, and punched her. He fractured her orbital floor, and when she went to see the doctor, he went with her. He encouraged her to make up a lie about how she was pushing her daughter on the swing, and the daughter had kicked her. Her injury required reconstructive surgery, and she subsequently filed for divorce in July of 2011 after the filming of the second season of Real Housewives. She cited verbal and physical abuse, and a month later, Russell died by suicide. He had not been answering calls, and something left her feeling unsettled. She details in the episode how she went to a home he was staying in, along with a friend's husband who came to support her. There were a myriad of things that he was very concerned about, but I never thought that he would kill himself, she divulged. Suicide never crossed my mind. She also says there was a majority of people who had no idea what was going on behind the scenes, about the surveillance that started with her finding a tape recorder. My housekeeper would find recording devices all the time, and it got to the point where I assumed I was being recorded all the time. I assumed he was always listening. He also started to use finances as a way of controlling her. I had no access to cash, and I had no access to bank accounts, so the financial control became a huge part in me not being able to leave. So after Camille made that comment on the show, she says, I remember looking at the producer and just a blank stare thinking, it's out, and I couldn't put it back. Camille had outed the fact that I was abused, and I was saying, you have no idea what you've done to me. He has threatened to kill me before. And this is what I found was interesting. Days after Russell Armstrong died, an associate of his named Alan Schramm died by suicide. They were both part of an elite investor group. So there's a question of, was there foul play? Well, they interview Richard Charnley, a trial lawyer who had spoken out about how he effectively served Russell for filing bad faith bankruptcy and misappropriating investor money in a lawsuit. Within 2 days of that, Russell died. Taylor says that they had an offshore protection trust that had $12 million. That account was empty. There ended up being 30 plus bank accounts, she says. They were all empty. Russell had amassed over $1.5 million worth of debt at the time of his death. So Russell Armstrong and Alan Schramm met while they joined that high net worth investment group. Schramm had worked as the managing partner for a Los Angeles-based hedge fund that he founded in 2000. So again, Russell served with papers, and within 48 hours he dies. He was about to face fraud charges, and he would be publicly outed for abusing his wife. When Alan Schramm's wife went to Alan to tell him that his business partner Russell had died by suicide, his wife said Alan showed no emotion. I mean, wouldn't you flip out? She asked if the show, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, was part of his decision to do that. And Alan Schramm said, quote, "It wasn't the show." He gets up, walks out, and then he's found in his car, death by suicide. There was also no alcohol in Russell's system, and apparently no note. So it really is a hard question, she says, when people ask why she stayed with Russell Armstrong. It's so complicated, and statistically, most of domestic violence victims return 7 times before they find the courage to leave. I questioned myself a lot. I asked, am I being abused? She says she stayed with him too because she wanted a father for her daughter, and because she came from a traumatic childhood, one can see why that would have been important. I think that this was such a devastating situation. It made me think about how much she's been through, and made me think about all of the people that were involved during the filming of the show at that time and what it must have been like to see signs that something was wrong, but not knowing what to do to help. And it made me think of when I interviewed Mike Rinder, telling me how his show with Leah Remini likely kept them protected because once a show is out, it's hard to keep secrets. The public knows what you're going through. And in the end, being part of the show, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I think probably saved Taylor. Because imagine what would have happened if she had not been a public figure. I'm so glad that she tells her story in this episode, and I think I have a far better understanding of what she endured, and I commend the show for handling it with grace. I'm certain that Taylor Armstrong has saved so many women because of her story, and I think that's going to be a story that I will not soon forget. You can watch Hollywood Demons on Max and on HBO. I believe it's also going to air on Hulu. And again, the episode aired on April 14th, but it's available for streaming. And I would encourage you, after watching that, especially to reach out to Taylor Armstrong and to tell her, as I will do too, just how really impressed I am with her strength, writing her story, the advocacy work that she does, and I just have tremendous respect for her. As always, I want to remind you to make sure that you click subscribe, make sure that you leave a 5-star review, and also make sure that you check out the Facebook group, Reality Life with Kate Casey. You can get my must-watch list at katecasey.substack.com, bonus episodes by going to my Patreon, patreon.com/Kate Casey. And also you can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram at KateCaseyCA, TikTok, it's Kate Casey, Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky at @KateCasey. And make sure that you check back tomorrow for an all-new episode.
Everyone has that friend who seems kind of perfect. For Patty, that friend was Desiree. Until one day,
I texted her and she was not getting the text. So I went to Instagram. She has no Instagram anymore. And Facebook, no Facebook anymore.
Desiree was gone. And there was one person who knew the answer.
I am a spiritual person, a magical person, a witch.
A gorgeous Brazilian influencer called Cat Torres, but who was hiding a secret. From Wondery, based on my smash hit podcast from Brazil, comes a new series, Don't Cross Cat, about a search that led me to a mystery in a Texas suburb.
I'm calling to check on the 2 missing Brazilian girls.
Maybe get some undercover crew there.
The family are freaking out. They are lost.
I'm Chico Felitti. You can listen to Don't Cross Cat on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts.